Hi, welcome to our channel where we share the most intriguing stories. When Gavin Morris rolled up to his off-grid dream home, he expected peace. Instead, he found HOA goons, forged documents, blacklisted deliveries, and a war he never asked for. What began as a move-in day turned into a battle for freedom, land, and the right to be left the hell alone. It was supposed to be one of the proudest days of my life. I had just spent nearly 2 years designing and building my dream home, a fully off-grid, energy-autonomous smart house perched on a ridge above the Red Rock Canyons of Nevada. Solar, battery, backup water tank, underground fiber, even seismic insulation. It had everything. And now, after all the planning, the permits, the inspections, the construction headaches, I was finally moving in. I rolled up the gravel driveway in my F-250 with the trailer hitched behind, loaded with the first wave of equipment and tools. A couple of contractors in a separate truck followed, bringing the modular furniture and security system modules for installation. The sun was rising behind the mountains, and the wind carried that dry, electric desert charge I loved. This was supposed to be the first quiet morning in my own damn house. But as I approached the gate, I noticed something was off. There were 2 dark SUVs parked across the entrance. I slowed. People were out front. 2 men in HOA security uniforms, arms crossed like they were guarding Fort Knox. And in the middle of them stood a woman in a beige skirt suit, holding a leather binder and wearing a look like she'd already decided I was the villain in her daytime soap. She stepped forward with the confidence of a dictator inspecting her parade. "Mr. Gavin Morris," she asked. "That's me," I said, stepping out of my truck, already annoyed. "Can I help you?" She didn't smile. "I'm Karen LaGrange, president of the Silver Mesa Ridge HOA. We're here to inform you that you are not authorized to move into this structure." I blinked. "You're what?" "This property has not yet been reviewed or approved by the HOA Architectural Integrity Committee. The fence is in violation of community standards. The color of your paneling reflects light toward the main road. Additionally, the structure does not meet the established neighborhood profile requirements, and as such, you have not been granted residential occupancy status. So, I'm afraid you'll need to turn around." I stared at her. It took me a full 5 seconds to process the sheer level of delusion it must take to walk up to a man on his own land and tell him he can't live in the house he just built. "This is private property," I said slowly. "I'm not in your HOA." I checked, rechecked, hired a land use attorney. "This ridge lot isn't part of Silver Mesa Ridge or any other association." She gave me the kind of condescending smile you reserve for the mentally unstable. "I understand your confusion. There has been some overlap in zoning due to administrative delay, and this parcel is currently under aesthetic review. Until that's resolved, you do not have permission to enter or occupy." I laughed. "You think I need your permission to walk into my own damn house?" "You may not understand the process," she said smoothly, "but we're simply enforcing community protocol. You can file an appeal with our board. Meanwhile, we've notified the County Code Enforcement Division and—" I cut her off. "Get off my property." Her eyes hardened. "Sir, you're escalating unnecessarily." "No," I said, stepping closer. "You're trespassing. Move your cars." One of her security goons stepped forward. "We're here to prevent unauthorized occupancy." "Unauthorized? I'm the one who holds the deed. I built the place. I designed every square inch of that house myself. And I am telling you, this is private land outside of your jurisdiction, so either you back off or I call the sheriff." Karen narrowed her eyes, then smirked. "You know what? Let's do that." And before I could pull out my phone, she was already on hers. "Yes, hello. I'd like to report a suspicious individual attempting to illegally occupy a residence under HOA review. Yes, 218 Mesa Overlook Drive. He's refusing to leave." I stood there, stunned. She was calling the cops on me for trying to move into my own home. I let her finish her fantasy report, then called the sheriff's department myself. 10 minutes later, a patrol cruiser pulled up the Ridge Road. A deputy stepped out, already looking tired of the day, and it wasn't even 9 a.m. "Morning," he said. "Got a report of a possible illegal entry." Karen jumped in like a dog at a tennis ball. "Yes, officer, thank you for coming. This man is attempting to unlawfully occupy a property that's not cleared for residential access by the HOA. We are protecting community standards." "Ma'am," I said, holding out a folder, "here's the deed, the permits, the zoning map, and the legal parcel registration. This property is not and has never been under HOA control. It's a separate private parcel carved out before your development ever existed." The deputy took the documents, flipping through them. Karen hovered, trying to peek over his shoulder. "I also have the land survey," I added, "with county stamps. This HOA has no claim here." Karen's smile was frozen. She tried to interject, but the deputy raised a hand. "Ma'am, please, let me read." He took a few more minutes, nodding occasionally, then finally looked up at her. "From what I see here, this gentleman is on his own property. He has the legal right to be here. You don't." "That's absurd," Karen hissed. "Look at this map. This lot borders our community, and our agreement says—" "Your agreement doesn't apply here," the deputy said flatly. "You're trespassing. I'm going to need you and your people to clear out." Karen's jaw clenched. Her security detail hesitated, but she gave them a nod and they got back into their vehicles. She lingered one more second, locking eyes with me. "This isn't over," she said quietly. "A house without HOA approval is not a home." "Good," I replied, "because I'm not building a prison." Then I turned my back on her, walked to my gate, and keyed in the security code. The gate slid open, the sun hit the front of my home just right, and for one brief moment I thought that would be the end of it. But I knew better. I barely had time to unpack a third of the trailer before the next hit landed. The morning after Karen's little blockade attempt, I was in the main room unpacking my monitors when I heard a knock at the front door. Not the gate, my actual front door. That alone set off alarms in my brain. I hadn't given the code to anyone but the contractors, and the gate had closed behind them hours earlier. I opened the door cautiously and found a courier standing there in a gray uniform, holding a thick manila envelope with a red county seal on the corner. "Mr. Gavin Morris," he asked. "Yeah." "You've been served." He handed me the envelope, had me sign something on his tablet, and walked off like it was just another Tuesday. I closed the door, opened the packet, and immediately felt the tightening in my gut that only government language can induce. It was a letter from the Clark County Office of Land Management, notifying me that my property was under preliminary review for annexation into a neighboring homeowners association due to adjacent community development harmonization. I sat down. "Read it again." They were trying to forcibly incorporate my land into the HOA. The document included a copy of a community petition requesting annexation supposedly signed by 11 nearby residents and an attached note from Silver Mesa Ridge HOA President Karen LaGrange stating that the buffer zone between their homes and mine has caused ongoing disruptions to aesthetic continuity and community safety. And to top it off, there was a scanned document, an alleged land transfer acknowledgement that supposedly gave the HOA rights to oversee property transitions for lots adjacent to the community border. It bore the forged signature of a man named Victor Herrera, the lead foreman of my construction project. I knew Victor, he didn't sign that. My mind flipped into military mode. Step 1, contain and assess. Step 2, document and counterattack. I called Victor immediately. He answered on the second ring. "Hey, Gavin, what's up? Did you sign anything for Silver Mesa Ridge? Anything giving them rights over this land?" Silence. "No," he said finally. "Why?" "Because there's a forged document with your name on it submitted to the county." "Hell no. I'll get a notary and send you a sworn affidavit within the hour." Next, I called my lawyer, Rachel Doyle, land use specialist and pitbull in heels. I forwarded her the scanned documents. Her voice sharpened the moment she read the annexation letter. "This is fraud, and this isn't just HOA overreach. This is government-level paperwork manipulation. You need to come in." 2 hours later, I was sitting in her office, and we were going line by line through everything. Rachel was already compiling a formal response to the county with notarized proof of ownership, Victor's affidavit, the original plat maps, and zoning records that clearly identified my parcel as unincorporated residential land not subject to HOA. Control. "It'll take a few days for the county to react," she said. "In the meantime, I want to know how this got as far as a filed review." She made a few calls. I watched her demeanor shift from composed to quietly furious. Turns out, the employee who processed the HOA's annexation request was a junior officer in zoning affairs named Travis Bainbridge. His last name rang a bell. Rachel pulled up his personnel file. His mother is Karen's vice president. HOA, nepotism, plain and simple. "Can we report this?" I'm going to do better. I'm filing a formal complaint to the County Ethics Committee, and I'm naming names. But we're not done. While Rachel was preparing the ethics filing and rebuttal package, I drove straight to the Clark County Recorder's office. I requested a certified full parcel history, ownership, zoning, easements, public access, all of it. Nothing, and I mean nothing, in the record even hinted that this lot had ever been eligible for HOA annexation. The transfer document Karen had submitted didn't match the format used in the county at all. I made copies of everything, uploaded scans to cloud storage, and sent backup files to my off-site legal vault. I didn't trust a damn thing anymore. That evening, as I returned home, I noticed a white envelope taped to my mailbox. In neat cursive handwriting, it read, "You can still stop this. Come to the Silver Mesa Clubhouse Thursday night and speak with us. We can avoid trouble if you cooperate." Inside was a printed HOA welcome packet with my name crossed out and replaced with occupant. They thought this was a negotiation. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The next 48 hours passed like trench warfare. After Rachel filed the formal rebuttal and ethics complaint, I tried to focus on settling in, setting up the server rack, testing the backup battery system, connecting my rainwater monitor. But the hum of productivity kept being broken by pings, calls, and new obstacles. It started with a delivery cancellation, then another. My new fridge, custom-built, energy-efficient, made to integrate with my smart system, was scheduled to arrive Tuesday. I got a voicemail that morning from the supplier. "Hi, Mr. Morris. Regretfully, we've been advised by a local community representative that your address is currently under review by a neighborhood association, and until the matter is clarified, we cannot proceed with delivery. Liability concerns. Apologies for the inconvenience." I called them back and explained everything, sent documents, even offered to have my lawyer call. The rep was sympathetic, but firm. "We've had contractors blocked before on these ridge lots. It's not personal, it's just too risky for our guys if someone from that HOA decides to escalate on site. Internet installer, same story. Security system tech, canceled pending clarification of jurisdiction. This wasn't a coincidence. It was a coordinated freeze-out. I called Rachel again. "They're cutting me off," I said. "Blocking vendors. They're trying to force you out by isolating you," she replied. "Harassment by proxy, classic HOA choke tactic. But it's actionable. Keep records of every vendor that refuses. Get everything in writing." That afternoon, I got a call from someone named Don Keever, owner of a local HVAC company I'd contracted for installation. I braced for another cancellation, but this time it was different. "Hey, Gavin," he said. "Look, I got a call from someone named Karen LaGrange. She said my guys would be trespassing if they set foot on your land. I told her to take a hike. But now my office is getting calls, bad reviews, and we just had someone call the state inspector's office on us. They're retaliating? I've got a family to feed, man. I'm just giving you the heads up. I'm out unless this blows over." I thanked him, hung up, and walked outside to clear my head. That's when I noticed something stuck to my front gate. A flyer, laminated, HOA letterhead, unapproved structure, alert. Residents are advised that the building at 218 Mesa Overlook Drive is currently under HOA review and may be subject to future demolition if found non-compliant with Silver Mesa Ridge standards. Deliveries and contractors are advised to confirm status with HOA board prior to entry. They were publicly threatening to demolish my house. I took the flyer down, scanned it, then hopped in my truck and headed to the Silver Mesa Ridge Clubhouse. Enough of this cloak and dagger nonsense. I wasn't going to play passive while they posted eviction notices on something they didn't own. But when I pulled up to their clubhouse, a granite-clad fortress with fountains and a valet lane, I was stopped at the gate by two rent-a-cops in matching windbreakers. One held up a clipboard. "Name and residence?" I said. "Gavin Morris, property owner on Mesa Overlook." The guard frowned. "You're not on the guest list. I'm here to speak with Karen LaGrange. She invited me. Thursday evening meeting." He made a show of pretending to scroll through names. "You're not approved for entry. HOA members only." I leaned forward, keeping my voice cold. "Tell Karen that the man she tried to illegally annex, sabotage, and isolate just showed up at her doorstep, and she's too cowardly to let him through the gates." He stepped back. I could see him speaking into his radio. A few minutes passed before the other guard returned. "Ms. LaGrange says all communication must be through legal counsel." I laughed out loud. "Cowards," I said. "Put it on the record. I attempted peaceful contact." Denied. I reversed down the hill and drove straight to the Las Vegas Register-Journal regional office. I didn't pitch them a story. I showed them documents, the forged petition, the false annexation claim, the block deliveries, the HOA flyer threatening demolition. The editor leaned back in his chair and said, "You mind if I forward this to our legal desk and zoning correspondent?" "Forward the hell out of it," I said. "Make it loud." By that evening, my phone lit up with a request for a statement. 2 other reporters reached out. Rachel advised me to stay tight-lipped on specifics until the county review concluded. But the fact was, this thing had just gone public. I poured a drink that night and stood on my porch looking at the ridge. Somewhere behind those lights sat a woman who thought this was a battle of patience. She thought isolation would work. She was dead wrong. The morning after the article went live, I knew the gloves were officially off. The piece wasn't front-page material, but it ran on the Register-Journal's digital homepage under the headline, "HOA attempts to annex property, threatens demolition of off-grid home." It cited anonymous sources, county records, the ethics complaint, and screenshots of the demolition flyer. The tone was neutral, but the implication was clear. Silver Mesa Ridge had overstepped in a big way. That morning, I got 3 calls from strangers. First was a woman named Belinda, who lived 2 streets over in the HOA. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said. "Most of us hate the board, but nobody ever stands up to them. We thought your house was part of the community until this blew up. Now we're seeing how dirty they really are." The second was a local delivery driver who'd been told by HOA reps to stay away from the crazy guy on the ridge. He offered to bring me the fridge himself, free of charge. The third call was from a lawyer named Marla Reese. She said, "Gavin, I represent one of your neighbors, a Mr. Padilla. He's a retired teacher, lives closer to the west side. The HOA forcibly included his lot in their jurisdiction last year. He never agreed. They've been fining him ever since." She asked if I'd be willing to join a multi-party complaint if it came to that. I said, "Absolutely, but I'm not waiting for them to make the next move." I didn't have to wait long anyway. That same afternoon, I got a call from my general contractor. "Hey, you might want to check the backside of the property," he said. "Why?" "There's a flag line, spray-painted markers. Looks like someone's prepping utility access." I walked the perimeter, and sure enough, bright orange paint, flagged stakes, and little white signs that read, "HOA Infrastructure Alignment Survey, pending utility upgrade." No phone call, no notice, no permit, nothing. They were trying to run new utility lines across my property. I lost it. I got in my truck and drove straight to the county planning office, marched into the records room. I requested every permit issued to Silver Mesa Ridge in the past 3 months. I found it. A tentative utilities adjustment request for a fiber cable expansion marked to run northeast quadrant with cross-parcel access. No opposition recorded. Opposition? I hadn't even been told. The permit was approved conditionally, pending full neighbor consent, which they didn't have. I snapped a photo and stormed into the front desk, demanding to speak to whoever had signed off on it. They sent me to an assistant planner who looked like he just got his braces off last year. When I asked why they approved something across a parcel clearly marked as non-HOA, he blushed and said it was submitted as part of the buffer zone package. They were still using the fake buffer zone designation. Unbelievable. I filed a formal challenge on the spot. I also requested a hold on any infrastructure work related to that permit and followed up with a second complaint, this time to the Nevada State Board of Engineers and Land Surveyors. They had filed a land use modification using forged consent. That's a felony under state law. When I got home, I installed 4 additional cameras along the backside of the property where the markers had appeared. I set the alerts to my phone, and I filed a trespass warning with the sheriff's department. That night, I sat at my kitchen island scrolling through the HOA's website. I expected the usual PR fluff, but then I noticed a tab labeled Civic Engagement Resources. And right there was a form letter template addressed to the county council, encouraging residents to write in support of community-wide aesthetic, protection against invasive, non-compliant developments. The language was veiled, but it was clearly about me. They were lobbying residents to file civil complaints en masse, to drown the county in pressure and get me legally strangled under zoning complaints, even if they had no basis. I couldn't believe how far they were willing to go. But I wasn't playing defense anymore. I wrote up my own counter letter, backed by actual records, and emailed it to every HOA resident whose address I could find in public property logs. A few hours later, I got 3 replies. All of them were from people inside Silver Mesa, and all 3 said the same thing. We've had enough of Karen too. Tell us how we can help. The next morning, a yellow notice was duct taped to my mailbox post. It read, "Notice of community non-cooperation. All services to this address are hereby discouraged until compliance." There was no official letterhead, no seal, just a stamp at the bottom that said, "Silver Mesa Ridge, Neighborhood Oversight. Council, there is no such council." It was something they clearly made up, but the message was received. That day, the trash collection truck drove right past my bins without stopping. I flagged it down. Driver rolled his window halfway. "I was told not to stop here," he mumbled. Told by who? HOA lady said this place was disputed. Same with the pest control company I'd scheduled for a bi-monthly spray. I called them after they ghosted my appointment. "Mr. Morris, we were advised that your property was undergoing a zoning dispute. We don't service disputed lots without a waiver." Then the kicker. Amazon driver pulls up mid-afternoon, gets out of the truck, looks at my address, looks visibly uncomfortable, and just leaves the package on the edge of the road, 40 feet from the gate. I walked out, took it from the dirt, and shook my head. They were choking my home, so I stopped being nice. I made 20 phone calls that day. First, I contacted my security monitoring company and had them upgrade the perimeter sensors to full live feed mode, so if anyone crossed into the property, I'd get pinged instantly with footage, day or night. Second, I had my attorney file a cease and desist to the HOA for interference in private services, citing 3 separate companies that admitted they'd been advised not to deal with me. Third, I called the State Consumer Protection Division and filed a complaint regarding HOA interference in utilities and commercial services, which violates Nevada Revised Statutes Section 116.3, 1184, prohibited acts of coercion by association boards. Fourth, I called a friend from my military contractor days, Tanner. He runs a private logistics company now, mostly off-grid installs, remote supply runs, things the big companies don't touch. I told him what was going on. He just laughed. "You want me to do a blackout delivery? No logos, no company truck, no HOA chatter. Just get me my generator and my water tank." You got it. 2 days later, he and a guy named Weller showed up in a matte black flatbed with no plates and unloaded a 10-kilowatt silent generator and 2 massive water drums through the back entrance. Well out of HOA view. "You're officially untouchable, man," Tanner said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Nobody messes with Morris Logistics." Then came the surprise. That night, I heard a knock at my gate. It was a teenage girl, 16, maybe 17, holding a small white envelope. She didn't say a word, just handed it through the bars and walked off. Inside was a letter. "Mr. Morris, I'm sorry. My mom is the vice president of the HOA. She and Ms. LaGrange are behind this. I heard them talking about using withhold and pressure tactics on you. My mom even said, if we make his life miserable enough, he'll leave and sell cheap. I don't agree with any of it. I just wanted you to know." No name, no signature, just that. I took a photo of the letter, scanned it, and sent it to my attorney and the reporter from the Register-Journal. No response yet, but I had a feeling it would come. The next morning, my lawyer called. "You're not going to believe this," she said. "Oh, I believe a lot these days. They've filed a formal HOA citation against you. I'm not even in the HOA. They claim your architectural design violates the Viewscape Cohesion Ordinance and that your structure presents a visual hazard to community continuity." I laughed. "What the hell is a viewscape hazard?" She didn't laugh back. "It's not real, Gavin, but they filed it with the county zoning board. This is real now." That was it. I told her, then it's war. And I wasn't speaking metaphorically. 2 days later, I was sitting at the kitchen counter trying to catch a breath when the doorbell rang. Through the camera feed, I saw a tall man in jeans and a blazer, press badge on his chest. A woman stood beside him with a notepad. They waved politely at the camera. "Gavin Morris." We spoke over email, he said once I cracked the door. "From the Register-Journal?" "Yup, Jeremy Kalman. This is Rita. She's our civil affairs lead. Mind if we talk about what's been happening here?" I didn't hesitate. We sat on the back patio under the solar awning while I laid out everything. The fake petition, the letter from the girl, the delivery blacklisting, the zoning stunt, the HOA citation for violating a view hazard ordinance. Kalman kept scribbling. Rita barely blinked. Then I handed them the letter, the one from the girl. Rita read it slowly. If this came from an HOA vice president's child, this is damning. Kalman nodded. We're going to print this. But we're also going to ask for comment from the HOA and the zoning office. Be my guest. The story dropped online the next evening with a brutal title, Outlaw HOA, Silver Mesa Ridge, accused of blacklisting, land theft, and targeting homeowner. Outside jurisdiction, it exploded. Regional news syndicates picked it up. Twitter threads went wild. But that was just the start. The next day, the county zoning commissioner himself showed up at my property in a white Ford Explorer. Guy looked exhausted. Mr. Drain Morris, he said, shaking my hand with the air of a man who had no idea how this became his problem. I just want to say, I wasn't aware of any petition. I've started a formal review, and I've put a freeze on any consideration of HOA boundary expansion pending investigation. That's great, I said, but you've got a forged document in your files, and your department accepted it. He sighed. We're working with the DA now. That night, someone tried to slice open my chain-link fence behind the shed. My perimeter system caught it. I got an alert at 1:13 a.m., along with a blurry photo of a figure in a hoodie. They didn't get in, but I reported it to the sheriff. The deputy who came out seemed more interested than before. When I explained everything, the citation, the blacklisted deliveries, the fake ordinance, the letter from the teenager, the zoning petition, he just stood there with a look that said, "This has gone too far." I'm going to file a full report, he said. This is getting serious. 2 mornings later, I got a subpoena. Not for me. For Karen LaGrange, issued by the Clark County Civil Court, requesting her appearance for a hearing on allegations of fraud, harassment, and abuse of HOA authority. I nearly smiled reading it. That same afternoon, I pulled up to my gate and found another notice taped to it. But this one wasn't yellow. It was white, official, and stamped by the Nevada Secretary of State. To the HOA Board of Silver Mesa Ridge, a preliminary audit has been initiated in response to multiple citizen complaints, suspected procedural violations, and alleged document falsification. All HOA business operations are subject to immediate review. The HOA had awakened something bigger than me. Now the state was watching. The courthouse smelled like old paper and disappointment. I sat with my attorney, Amelia Cho, ex-prosecutor, sharp as a razor, calm as a bomb. Karen entered 10 minutes late, sunglasses on indoors, flanked by 2 other HOA board members, the vice president and the treasurer, who looked like they were regretting every minute of this. The judge, a heavyset man with a deadpan voice, called the session to order and read off the charges. Attempted annexation through falsified documents, harassment of private citizen, conspiracy to intimidate a property owner. Karen's attorney, some overpaid blow-dried type, tried to argue that the petition was merely exploratory, never formally submitted. The judge raised one eyebrow and held up the document stamped by the zoning office. This exploratory draft got entered into official review channels. That's not how exploration works. I held my laughter. Amelia dropped the letter from the HOA kid on the table like a trump card. Judge scanned it. Is this real? The original is in the hands of the district attorney, she said. This is a copy, authenticated. Karen turned pale. The vice president turned red. The treasurer looked like he was about to vomit. Amelia continued, calm and steady, outlining the pattern. Blacklisting delivery companies, issuing fake citations, intimidating service workers, trying to alter zoning designations, faking petition signatures, including one of a deceased person. The judge looked visibly angry by then. We'll be scheduling a formal evidentiary hearing, he said, and I recommend that the HOA retain criminal counsel because this is looking a lot like fraud. As we left the courtroom, a local news van pulled up. They weren't even discreet. Karen tried to walk fast. A reporter called out, "Ms. LaGrange, is it true you forged documents to expand the HOA?" She didn't respond, but her board treasurer muttered under his breath, "This is all going to hell." Later that night, I received an email from an anonymous address. One line only. "You should have just joined the HOA. Now you'll lose everything." I forwarded it to Amelia in the sheriff's office. An hour later, my floodlights went on. Motion sensor, front yard. I checked the cameras. Nothing visible. No face. No car. But the implication was clear. Next morning, one of my solar batteries was sabotaged. Someone had sprayed corrosive fluid on the lower panel array. Minor damage, but intentional. I reported it. Again. The deputy said, "They're desperate now." But it got worse. the county announced a public community forum to discuss the future of boundary management policies for residential associations. A town hall, HOA board members, journalists, zoning officials, residents from both sides, and me. Karen showed up early, wearing pearls, gripping a clipboard like it was a weapon. This wasn't over. It was going public. The community hall was packed like a hornet's nest that had just been kicked. I stood near the back at first, observing. HOA members clustered near the front rows like they were attending a royal gala. Karen sat dead center, legs crossed, pearl necklace gleaming, face frozen in some bizarre mix of smugness and anxiety. The county moderator tapped the mic. Today's forum will focus on homeowner boundaries, HOA authority limits, and the issues surrounding the disputed zone near Silver Mesa Ridge. They might as well have just said my name. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't waste time. I pulled out 3 blown-up aerial maps, one from county records, one from the construction phase, one taken 2 days prior. This, I said, pointing to the red line on each, is my property. It has always been my property. I paid for the land. I built the home. And I've endured harassment, false claims, vandalism, and intimidation for months. A few people clapped. Karen scowled. I continued. HOA Silver Mesa Ridge attempted to forcibly integrate my land using falsified petitions and collusion with a zoning official who turned out to be the son of their vice president. Gasps. I dropped copies of the fake documents on the table, each one marked by a forensic document examiner. Karen stood up suddenly. This is a smear campaign. He's lying. Sit down, the moderator snapped, but she didn't. She turned toward the audience. We were trying to protect the character of the neighborhood. That house doesn't match our architecture. Someone in the crowd shouted, "It's not your land." Another followed, "You forged my late wife's signature, you monster." Dead silence. Then murmurs. The county board members whispered among themselves. One stood. Due to the severity of these allegations, and based on evidence already submitted to the district attorney's office, we are moving forward with a full criminal investigation into the conduct of the HOA board. Karen finally sat down. Like a puppet, with its strings cut. Within a week, the county filed charges: document fraud, attempted property annexation, harassment, and obstruction of zoning review. Karen was arrested. The HOA vice president resigned the same day. The treasurer turned state witness. In court, Karen pled guilty to multiple counts of fraud and interference in private ownership. Her sentence: 2 years probation, $40,000 in restitution to me and other affected parties, and a lifetime ban from participating in any homeowners association board or governance group in the state of Nevada. The county also ordered Silver Mesa Ridge HOA to undergo a full audit and place them under administrative oversight for 3 years. 1 week later, I installed a new steel gate at the bottom of my driveway. Welded onto it a metal sign that read, "Private land, not HO, not negotiable." A few neighbors, ones who had stayed quiet throughout, dropped by with beer and burgers. One of them shook my hand and said, "We've been watching. You did what we all wanted to do." We grilled late into the night, under the stars, no permits required, and as I looked out at the canyons from my smart home porch, I thought, I built this place to be mine. Now it finally is.